Yes, sir. I apologize for that.
Oh, no problem. No, I was asking, are we missing anyone from the city?
I'm not sure if they're going to be joining us tonight. We can go ahead and get started.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today, and welcome to our August 26th Winston-Salem Transit Authority Board meeting. Always good to see everybody's face, and even though it's on Zoom and it's not in person, it's still nice to see everybody, and hope that you and yours are all doing well. For joining us today. It is going to be a relatively day. There's not much on the agenda from a resolution standpoint. We do have a presentation by Mr. Kelly Bennett and then by Carol. And also too, just to let everybody know, like towards the end, we're rushing maybe just a little bit. It's because the computer system, we're having some serious IT issues throughout the city, and that affects WSTA. So there might be a chance. We were told that they were not going to cut in on anybody until 5, but there might be a possibility where they might have to shut the systems down beforehand. So forgive us for, as always, I'd like to read the statement in regards to our meeting. Due to the Safer at Home order issued by Governor Cooper, members of the Human Relations Commission are participating virtually, or members of the Winston-Salem Transit Authority are participating virtually. All members will vote by roll call. Will Tika now will call out our name when we vote. A member will be recognized at which time that member will state his or her vote, yay or nay. So again, just a statement that we read, it is being recorded. Tika, to do the roll call. And just a reminder to everybody to please mute your computer if you have background noise happening. Tika, would you like to do the roll call?
Certainly. Chairman Robert Garcia.
Here.
Vice Chairman Keith King.
Present.
Dr. Jack Fleer. No, Mr.
Here.
Mr. Willie Clark Jr.
Here.
Miss Latanya Wright.
Here.
Miss Lynette Allendorf.
Here.
Miss Jeanette Lawson Jackson.
Here.
Mr. Philip Osborne.
I've been present for.
All right, we have all board members accounted and present for.
Oh, thank you very much. I thought I heard Mr. Osborne is with us. Okay, good.
Yes.
All right. As always, everyone, we have a safety message for you. Just a little something that we started some time back. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record on this message, but please just, with the uptick in the pandemic, I know that you're all very much aware of it. That's in our community, our schools, our community, our jobs. It's we're a little topsy-turvy right now in some areas. And we just hope and pray that it will get better. So my safety message is just please be careful. Adhere to the guidelines that I know Mayor Jones, as of last Friday at 5:30, mask mandate in all public places. And we just got to get this under control and get back to normal life. So that's our safety message. Just please continue to practice. I know that we've all been doing it and trying our best. And for those of you that are maybe have family, friends, or relatives that are currently going through this, our thoughts are with you, and we hope that they recover soon. So thank you very much. We now go to public comment. Ms. Woodson, I did not see anybody sign on for public comment, or?
No, sir. And this is publicized on the city website as well as WSTA, and the public has the opportunity, if they want to participate, to call in to get the call-in information or the link to join the Zoom. And we did not receive any requests at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Then we will proceed now to the first resolution. As always, the first resolution is the approval of the previous meeting, which was on July 29th. We all received our packets. You had an opportunity to view the minutes, and I'm going to just take a minute or two just in case you'd like to review them, Ms. Woodson might scroll through them. If you happen to see something and say, oh, yes, I did see something, by all means, speak up. So we'll give it 1 or 2 minutes here before we approve.
When appropriate, I move their approval.
Dr. Flair, thank you very much, sir. We have a motion by Dr. Flair to approve the minutes from the July 29th meeting. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Tika will now take a roll call with regards to voting. Please vote yay.
Chairman Robert Garcia,
Yay.
Vice Chairman Keith King,
Yes.
Dr.
Yay.
Jack Fleer,
Yes.
Willie Clark Jr.,
Yes.
Latanya Wright,
Yay.
Lynette Allendorf,
Yes.
Jeanette Lawson Jackson,
Yes.
and Mr. Philip Osborne.
Yes.
All those same sign. Okay. Thank you, everyone. The minutes from the July 29th meeting have been approved. Thank you very much. We move on to our second resolution, and this resolution is awarding a contract to Brad's Electrical Construction for they're going to be doing a lighting upgrade at our maintenance garage. Ms. Woodson and/or John, would you like to comment on this?
I'll start off, and if John has any additional comments, he'll be more than welcome to provide those to the board. But basically, this is just a resolution that the staff is bringing to you today, this afternoon, and asks that you approve the purchasing department and myself to enter an agreement with Brad's Electric Construction Company. This bid went out early on in August, and it went through the city's process for purchasing and procurement. We received 2 bids on this, and you see that in the resolution, the details of the specific bidders, what they submitted as their base bid. And of course, with the policy adherence, we would like to recommend Brad Electrical's company construction as they were the lowest bidder. The work that we're asking them to do is an upgrade to the existing lighting within the maintenance facility and the yard to make sure that we have adequate lighting. That is imperative to safety. And so when the opportunity presents itself and we have available funding, we want to do anything that would enhance our safety for our employees. And this is one upgrade that is necessary so that people have complete visibility during the times, and it's the early morning, the late evenings. Our maintenance department is here throughout the night to 2 o'clock in the morning. So we want to make sure that they are able to see any and everything that they need to while they're out there maintaining our vehicles and our fleet. So I'll entertain any questions. John, if you want to add anything to the information to provide to the board before we ask their approval.
I think you covered it all.
Well, if board members, if you've not been over into John's area, I would highly recommend it whenever you get a chance. You can almost eat off the floor. It's just a well-maintained area. And this, again, is just going to, you're right, Ms. Woodson, during storms at night. I mean, they need that. Bless you. Do we have a board? Are there any questions with regards to the bids that were received or questions about the lighting in general?
This is Jack Flair. I have a few questions.
Okay.
First of all, I wanted to know whether we have used this particular electrical construction company before.
I think the city has. We've only had a few small little jobs they've done, not no, albeit this large, but I think they have did work for the city of Winston before.
All right, thank you. And is it a minority women contractor?
No.
Thank you very much, John. I do have one question about the resolution. In the paragraph that begins on the second page of it, be it further resolved, the second sentence begins, the commission is not legally bound. What commission is that?
That's the commission, actually is the Board of Commissions for the city of Winston-Salem.
Oh, the city council.
City council, yes, sir.
Right. Should we change that to city council? Or
I
is
can
it-
change that. Yes, I can change that if you prefer. That is actually language that came from a previous resolution with the city, and it was referred to as the commission, so I left it as such. But I can actually speak with the city manager's office, and if they would like, I can definitely change that to the city council instead of the Board of Commissions.
Yeah, I just didn't know what that referred to, and I'm not sure what their current name is, whether it's council or board of aldermen. But whatever it is, I think it needs to be cleared.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And they have several, but I will confirm with them and change it accordingly before Mr. Garcia signs off on it.
All right, thank you very much. That's
Thank
my
you.
question.
Yes,
Thank
and
you,
I will
Dr. Clear.
speak on the, when you refer to the MWBE, the city has a vendor list that includes all of the vendors that they've used or they have access or they have turned in their certification to certify that they either are HUB certified or MWBE. Of course, we know that WSTA and the DOT are heavily involved in trying to solicit DBE participation so that we can reach our 6.9% goal. So we are actually going after and putting it out there. Just a lot of vendors, unfortunately, are not aware that that would make them more marketable if they did receive that certification. But Marlene Davis with DOT was reaching out constantly and willing to assist. And she is currently helping some of our existing contractors and some that are interested in doing work with WSTA to obtain their certifications. So we're going to be moving up that needle with our DBE participation.
I appreciate that very much. I think it's very important.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great questions there. Any further questions?
Keith King, I'll move for its approval.
Thank you, Mr. King. We have Mr. King has moved the motion to approve the resolution approving Brad's Electrical to perform the lighting upgrade in the maintenance garage. Do we have a second?
A second, Jeanette Wilson Jackson.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Now we will have a vote. Tika?
Okay.
Mhm.
Chairman Robert Garcia,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Keith King,
Yes.
Dr. Jack Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Willie Clark Jr.,
Yes.
Ms. Latanya Wright,
Yes.
Ms. Lynette Allendorf,
Yes.
Ms. Jeanette Lawson Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Philip Osborne.
Yes.
Thank you, board. And it looks like we have full approval for the resolution. Thank you, everyone. The resolution has been approved by a full vote of yes by every board member. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
That concludes our resolutions. Ms. Woodson, I believe we're going to go into our information items. We've got a presentation by Kelly Bennett.
Yes, Mr. Bennett is going to make has a presentation just for informational purposes for the sake of the August 26th meeting. We are asking that you review his presentation and ask any questions appropriately, and it will be brought back to the board in our September meeting for a resolution of approval.
Okay.
So at this time, Kelly.
Thank you, Ms. Woodson and Mr. Chairman and members of the board. about a year and a half ago, came to you with a request from the Public Art Commission to do a round of artistic bus shelters on several of the shelters, WSTA shelters around the city. And this project was very successful, and Public Art Commission would like to do some more. So here to kind of make a quick presentation on that. Could you advance the next slide, please? So this would be a project that would be covered by the Public Art Commission, all the funding and artist search. Last time we did some advertising on the buses, and that worked very well. It brought a lot of new artist applications to us. And at the September meeting, we'll be requesting WSTA board approval to do this. It would be at 8 to 12 locations, local artists. And one of the things that we learned last time was that we could do this transparent vinyl printing, and people could submit their artwork, whether it was paintings or photography or graphic design. And we could print that and have it installed on the shelters so that it's transparent. It has little holes. So from a safety standpoint, people would be able to see through it, but the artwork is still very visible. And it's holding up very well. It's still installed more than a year later at all the shelters. Looks good. So we're gonna leave them up and hopefully install some more with your approval early next year. We're looking at doing historic themes. Next slide, please. And you can see, or maybe you can't see, maybe it's too small, but this is a map of the city showing the major street networks with bus shelters and then existing artistic bus shelters. There are 12 of them, I believe. Some of them, a couple of them got ruined. One was vandalized and one was hit by a car. But if we install this new round, I think that we will be able to reinstall those prior shelters just in the same spots. Next slide, please. And like I said, they're looking at doing a historic theme, and I would build on a couple of the shelters that we saw last year. This is one of my favorite. The Women of Winston-Salem has some people, some women, historic women in the city, including Priscilla Stevens, the first female driver for the Safe Bus Company, Sylvia Sprinkle Hamlin, the first woman, first African-American to be director of Forsyth County Library, and PFC Elizabeth Baker Johnson, first female to use the GI Bill to attend Winston-Salem State. Next slide, please. And then this is another one, just some fine art photography. Next slide, please. And then another
That's right.
historic themed one, Earl of Pearl, Big House Games. So we're kind of setting up some Dropbox folders that people will be able to look at on their computer for some background on some historic information of different areas around the city, and then we're open up to proposals from folks for topics that we haven't heard of. And next slide, I think this might be the last slide. Yeah, so I am happy. So the tentative schedule would be, that we'd start advertising in October, November on the buses and through city marketing. we'd again hold an artist workshop, this time on Zoom. Kind of get people, answer everybody's questions before they apply. And then, we'd be looking to select the artists and install the artwork early next year. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
This is Mr. King.
Go ahead,
My
Mr. King.
question, okay, my question is, how do you go about selecting the artist, and how do you go about selecting what art goes what part of the city?
So for this round, we're going to try to tie the history of an area to certain bus shelters. So, we have a couple recommended sites. One might be the history of there's an artist, Sam the Dot Man, who was an artist that lived on Northwest Boulevard. We might do a shelter near where he lived, a couple blocks away, or the Five Royals near I think it's the Loman House. There's a shelter a couple blocks away from there. So, hopefully we'll get some ideas that are kind of tied to a location. We try to spread them around the city so they're not all clustered in one place. If you look at that map, we'd like to get them in all the wards, and we have a committee who's been working on this, who's interested in the project. One of the people who's helped us has been Tina Carson Wilkins, and we have some Public Art Commission members, and then some other interested parties who would be going through all the proposals and picking the best artwork and pairing it with the shelters so that they're distributed around the city.
Are board members eligible to submit a design?
I don't think they are. I think that if you serve in a capacity on a board or commission, that you are prohibited from entering into a contract with the city to earn money. So it wouldn't be permitted.
Mr. Bennett, this is Jack Blair. This is a wonderful project. I've enjoyed looking at the prior stops and the art, and I look forward to seeing these.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, we hope we get. We had a lot of good applications last time, and I hope we can attract people to do it again.
Kelly, do you ask the different council members, the city council members in their different wards, maybe what they'd like to see from a historical perspective?
We haven't reached out to the city council for that. No, we it's been a project of the Public Art Commission, who's appointed by the council and the county commissioners. So they kind of leave it up to that group.
Well, Kelly, thank you very much for your presentation. I got to agree with Dr. Flair. It's just really nice to see that artwork. It's beautiful.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yes, very nice. If there's no further questions, fellow board members, we'll thank Mr. Kelly and we'll move on.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir. Okay, I believe we got Carol up next, if I'm not mistaken, don't we, Ms. Woodson?
Yes. I'm
Carol, we
gonna allow
keep
Carol-
skipping over you, a couple of meetings because we run over and,
Gonna make sure she does her presentation today. Yes, sir. Thank you. And I'll let you drive your presentation, Ms. Patrick.
Okay.
All right, are you seeing the presentation?
No.
No? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Well, great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to the fiscal year review. A month late, but better late than never. I'm just going to be doing a quick overview of fiscal year 1920 versus fiscal year 2021. And unfortunately, we are still in COVID land. You know, the differences between the 2 years are so vast because service changed so much from, you know, we had mitigation routes and then we went down to only Saturday service, no one's paying. And, you know, now we're trying to get back up to normal. But it's just been difficult to try to determine what's normal, what's changed, driving changes when so many things are changing. So it's been anything but a normal year. So first, looking at the overall ridership of fixed route and TransAid, both services ended up dropping about 23% of the ridership last year, which kind of surprised me that they were both about the same. So we're down to about 1,700,000 and about 154,000 on TransAid. So hopefully this coming year, things will change. Okay, these next couple of slides, I'm going to be talking about the individual routes. And this first one is looking at all the routes in total, weekday, Saturday, and Sunday. And just to kind of give you an explanation about all the different colors, the kind of brown orange color are the mitigation routes that we had going on, which you'll see larger decreases there. You know, routes that had 30-minute service, you know, during the daytime, during the week. And then the green routes are the routes that didn't run for the last half of the 1920 and the first half of 2021 because we were only running Saturday service. So those routes didn't run. So we're seeing really large decreases on the green ones here. Really large decreases. And then the blue ones are just routes that have not had much impact during, or any impact during COVID. So all that being said, Route 101, which is a southeast part of town connector, only dropped 7%, which is the route that was least impacted overall. The other route was Route 86, which dropped about 10. And that's also on the southeast side of town. So, and I think the two things that these routes have in common is I think there's a lot of transit dependent riders on that part of town. And that's probably why we're seeing less of an impact there than, you know, on some of these other routes. So moving over to just looking at weekday, pretty similar because the majority of our ridership does come from the weekday service. So on Route 101, you know, down 7%, 86 down 10%. And of course, our green routes or routes that didn't run because we reduced that to just Saturday service, they took a huge hit. And of course, our routes that were running half-hour service also took a large hit. Now, it gets interesting when you start looking at Saturday service only, because you can see over here, little old Route 82, which is just a half-hour route that runs over on the west side of the mall, down there by Haynes Mall, increased by 4%. Now, that's not saying a lot because Route 82 doesn't have a lot of ridership to begin with. So, but it did increase, which kind of surprised me. Again, Route 86, you know, is hanging in there, just a 2% drop. Route 101, 103, not as impacted as much. But of course, Route 100 dropped like a rock because it didn't run for a lot of the time. Now looking at Sunday, we actually saw an increase on Route 86, just a 1% increase. But again, I think that goes back to that transit dependent ridership down on that side of town. And, you know, some of these other routes, you're seeing 80, 93, 105, those are all routes that, you know, of course have bigger impact. And Route 100, again, didn't run for part of the year, so it took the biggest hit. So looking at the ridership by region, the Northwest region had the most, and this is based on destination, okay? Where the destination place is, the end of the line. So, and the Northwest has 32% of our ridership. Down in by Haynes Mall, the west area has another big chunk at 21%. And then you have the Northeast, South, Southeast, all about 13%. And the East has the smallest sliver of 8%. And over on the right here, you can see the number of routes that make up those sections. And clearly the Northwest and West have a, you know, because of Haynes Mall, has a, and also up Haynes Mill, up in that area, you're going to have more routes going up there in Sturmer Park. So looking at the impact on wheelchair passengers, Fixed Route had a larger drop in wheelchair passengers of 33%, and Transaid was only about 19%. Bike passengers dropped about 17%. Still had well over 10,000 bike passengers last year. On-time performance. Fixed Route was up a little bit. It's hanging in there at about 3% increase. And Transaid was up 22%, all the way up to 96, almost 97%. And which is great, that met the performance goal. But we're unfortunately seeing that come back down as our ridership continues to pick up. We're seeing that come back down again. Revenue miles for the 2 years. Of course, we saw a decrease in revenue miles because we were running less service, 9% on Fixed Route and 13, almost 14% on Transaid. Cost per passenger. You can always count on the cost going up. Went up 15% or almost 16% on Fixed Route, and Transaid, it went up 8%. And that's partially driven because driven by less passengers, you know, and costs going up. So you're going to see an increase there. Accidents. Now this is a nice story to tell. Our accidents dropped significantly between FY 1920 to 2021. In Fixed Route, it dropped overall 24%, 33% in Transaid, and 66% in maintenance, which is great. Did a great job. Safety is done, and all the operators being more diligent, paying attention. Just in preventable accidents alone, which is the darker color down here, that dropped almost 50%. Actually, I think it's 47% drop in preventable accidents from the previous fiscal year, which is wonderful. Changing over to phone stats, we saw incoming calls go down by 23%. And the percent of calls that answered went up to almost 98%. So they are answering all those calls. And that also met our goal of 95% or higher. Maintenance related hours. All the maintenance hours decreased last year. The maintenance hours itself was down 5%. Mechanic hours were down almost 19%. And the inspection hours were only down about 2 or 3%. And road calls, saw a little difference here between Fixed Route and Transaid. Fixed Route went up 20%, whereas TransAid went down 28%. And I believe we probably saw an increase in fixed route because we were nursing those older buses, which have finally come off the road now that our new buses have come in. So hopefully we'll see a change in that next year. Any questions?
Carol, do you think that with TransAid, I saw where the cost on time was great. Costs, of course, were up because of less ridership. But do you think people maybe have tightened up their habits when it comes to public transportation? And hopefully, we'll see it in the future. With that on time is always a good thing.
Yes, yeah. For TransAid, yeah, we had less ridership. And when we were fully staffed, we were meeting it. We were doing great. Now that we're having staffing issues and of course ridership is increasing, we're already starting to see it. We're starting to see that on-time performance go down again. So, but it looked great last year.
And accidents being down the way they are a compliment to the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But and something about
Patrick, this is Jack Flair. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if you could explain the revenue miles. I, for some reason, can't recall exactly how that's determined. And I think, did we have free riding through most of 2019-20?
Well, in the fiscal year 2019-2020, we had free ridership the last 3 months.
Right.
And then for the most current fiscal year that we just finished, we had free ridership through the end of the year, like for about 6 months, I believe. So, of course, on fixed route and TransAid, we saw an increase, a tremendous increase in ridership once it was free. So back to your question about the revenue miles, are you asking how that impacted revenue miles or why they were
Right,
down?
right, exactly.
Well, I mean, we were running less service overall, which is why the revenue miles went down.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you compare it to the previous fiscal year, remember we had mitigation routes. So we were running a lot more miles because we had extra routes running, not extra routes, but 30-minute service, for a number of routes. So there were many more miles being run to begin with. And then of course, Saturday service. So yeah, and on TransAid, I mean, it had the same effect. Once we started reducing fixed route service, those miles went down too.
So when you're figuring revenue miles, that's all revenue considered.
Yeah, I mean, like fixed route revenue miles is first pick up, the last drop off. And same thing with TransAid. So when they, leave the depot here with passengers or the TC, when they leave here, they're in revenue miles.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Woodson, in regards to, this was the past year, and we certainly hope that we can overcome this recent uptick with the pandemic and everything, but are we working towards a contingency plan as far as routes are concerned, or any cutbacks? Not necessarily cutbacks, but just reconfiguring some things?
Yes, sir. Actually, I met with operations yesterday evening. We were here after hours discussing that because coupled with our shortages on fixed route as well as paratransit, in addition to the shortages of employees, we have issues with attendance and people being out for long-term leaves for various reasons from FMLA, COVID-related, light duty, so many different things and factors why the staffing issues that support that. So with that being said, and because we are so short-staffed on both services, we are preparing some information based on our ridership and our ability to perform, and we're going to be making some presentations to the board and the council to offset that, because we do see areas where we have low ridership, and those are opportunities where we may be able to scale back, because what we are doing now, to be quite transparent, is our drivers are working a lot of overtime. And so we want to make sure that we keep them safe. And then, of course, with COVID and the pandemic out there, we have to, make sure we're keeping them safe from that as well. So there's some opportunities we may be able to we may have to suspend some services. So we'll put together operations, and the data analysts working on that to put together information to provide, so we can make an assessment of where we can suspend services that will have a least of an impact on the citizens. However, it'll address our concerns and issues as it relates to staffing shortages.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes,
And we'll try to have all of that to the board before September, but to be quite honest, it may have a more pressing need. So it may be something that's going to come intermittently before the board meeting, but I will make sure that the board is well informed before we make any decisions moving forward with our services.
thank you, ma'am. Certainly, we're not immune, much like any of all of our businesses in our other worlds. I'm sure, last minute scrambling to change things up, to change policies one way, you got to change them back the next. So just as long as we're doing what's right for our community and right for our staff, like you said, we certainly don't want to work them into the ground. They're working, as you told me earlier today, that they're working a lot of overtime. So got to take care of those guys and gals. Thank you so very much. Board, any further questions for Carol?
This is Jack Blair. I actually had one other question, and it relates to the wonderful graph on percentage of ridership by region. I was quite impressed by the Northwest having more than a third, or just at a third. Do we have that kind of data for any prior years?
Yeah. I've presented this for the last few years, so yeah.
And is that any change, or is
No, it hasn't changed. It's funny because I look at that every year hoping, is it going to change? Pretty much the same.
Yeah. One of the reasons I'm particularly interested in that is one of the members of the city council who represents that region, not necessarily the ward by that name, but that region, watches the use of the WSTA system very closely, and occasionally has commented on some of the lack of use that he perceives, but he or she perceives. And I'm just quite impressed by the fact that it's as significant as it is.
Yeah, and remember, that's by destination. Where
Right.
and
I do know.
it may run through, other parts, but it's where the destination is.
Yeah, and what that means is that people are going to that area probably for some kind of enterprise that they're engaged in. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Fly, I couldn't agree with you more. I've been confronted also in regards to, and that's another subject or another talk for another time, about empty buses, or if somebody sees somebody in their particular section of town, and find myself defending that all the time. We run Miss Woodson and the crew run a tight ship, and we've all traveled around the United States. Recently, I just traveled up to the Northwest and saw basically the same thing. I'm like, oh, hey, I see a bunch of empty transit buses or people. So I don't know their particular sectors, but you just never know from one quarter of a year to another what might be happening in that particular area. So, well, Carol, thank you so very much as always. Let's see, we have, and Ms. Woodson, tell me, I know that we've got to allow for the city to cut in, which should be shortly.
I'm sorry, I didn't
For this to the rest to September.
Well, actually, there's nothing left on the agenda. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so the only thing that was left out of the packet, and I'll just go over that briefly. Several months ago, I started presenting a report of the incidents that our security system North State had to address at the Transportation Center, just to give the board an overview of the types of things that happen, incidents that take place at the TC and how they're being addressed. And so for the month of July, we had a total of 37 incidents that North State had to address, North State and or Winston-Salem PD. And these, the people that actually violated those have been banned either permanently, temporarily. They have an opportunity for an appeal, but these are some of the incidents that we have to deal with, staff at the Transportation Center as well as the North State Security. So that was the only thing that was left on the agenda outside of staff reports. And we are open to address any concerns or questions with the reports, if there be any.
Certainly some interesting incidents.
Transportation Center is an interesting location.
What would be a typical trespass?
Basically, if they have already been previously banned and they are on the property without permission.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
It's a lot of them.
They're busy, quite busy.
All right, well, thank you for reporting that out. Well, Ms. Woodson, with your permission, I can draw our meeting to a close. As always, fellow board members, thank you for your participation and your questions, your comments. This is what makes this organization that we're so proud to serve as a board. That's what makes it go. And we're blessed to have a crew that runs a very, very tight ship. And I just do not say that from all the years I've been part of it, but data doesn't lie. And so as always, I always applaud you, Ms. Woodson, and the staff, everybody. Everybody has a part in it, so it's a team. Thank you very much for all your efforts and through this time. Thank you, board members, everyone from the city. I even saw Tanika, I haven't seen her. She popped up on the screen just a minute ago. Thank you for joining us today. Please be careful out there in this world that we're in right now. We look forward to seeing you in September. And if there's no further comment or questions, may you have a great rest of your Thursday and a great weekend to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.